Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I think we'll begin. That's 12, the proper time to begin any midday webinar. So today we have Rob Maszkowski from Touchstone Consulting. Touchstone is a company I've actually worked with for the last 12 months, and I'm calling us we. Rob and his team concentrate on process management, process improvement, and he's got a roughly about 15-minute presentation he'd like to run through, which gives us some guidelines for efficient process definition. And then at the end of his presentation, we'll roll into something that I'm presenting, which is related to processes and the processes that we are hoping to share with members of the NZBCA organization. So I will hand over to Rob. Rob, if you could now introduce yourself and your presentation.
For sure. Thanks, Dan. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Brilliant. Well, look, thanks for attending. I hope that what I present is of some value to you guys. I hope that somebody takes away at least one thing today. That would make me very happy. So Touchstone, we do focus on business processes. That's what we advise on. That's the core of the service that we provide. And here we go. I should share really. And the reason why we focus in this area is because through my experience over the many years, many organizations and people find it quite difficult to manage processes. Quite often it's confusing for them to understand what needs to be documented as a process or controlled as a process, and to what extent do you go and documenting it. So we've put together some principles that we present and provide to our clients, which helps them manage an otherwise quite a confusing and challenging landscape. So I'd like to take this opportunity to share our approach with you, and I hope that you can find a home for at least some of this in your organization or in your work. So this is me. I started Touchstone, well, would have been 2020, but really started actually working properly to build it up at the start of 2022. So we're just, today is the 3-year anniversary of our official launch. Wow, how appropriate is that? So before I go to this, the reason why this presentation is called Avoiding the Process Jungle, thank you, is because the feedback we've had from organizations, and in particular the public sector, is that processes and process management are all done in with the best intentions, and people try to be really thorough so that they can control their processes for the best outcome of the organization. Unfortunately, it all takes time, it all takes effort, and it becomes a jungle of processes that cannot be maintained, that are duplicated, that are contradictory. Local governments can have anything between 1 and 2, and I've heard up to 3,000 documented processes. Trying to maintain all of those, A, is of little value, and B, takes a lot of effort. So let's avoid the process jungle. So we have a recipe of 3 principles on how to put in the minimum effort for the maximum gain in managing your processes. The first one is focus on value and risk. When determining which processes to document, and you can, while I'm talking, try and sort of put the context of what I'm saying either in your own organization or an organization that you're quite familiar with, and see how that would relate. I'm quite keen to know your thoughts. So if you're about to set up a new business management system or a system of processes, or you're simply looking to make a fresh start, like a wholesale review and amendment to your processes, focus on where the value and risk is. So which processes add value to your organization? And it's fairly clear where the top 3 or 4 are. Same with risk. What are your risks? What are your compliance risks? Because these are the things that need to be controlled. So this is where you start, and you grow and build down from there. The second ingredient in the recipe or principle is have the information where and when needed. So there's little point having an instruction manual or an approved procedure on the intranet for the use of a hand auger or how to drive a car. You're not likely, well, A, you might not have access to the information, or B, it may be too difficult to, or for some people to access it. So try and have the information where and when it's needed. The third one is document only what's critical. The nice to haves are nice to have. Once you really manage your entire process suite and you've got all your critical elements under control, then you can add the nice to haves. And then number 4, keep things accurate, brief and clear. It's not a novel. People don't read procedures for joy. And the last one is start with the key takeaway. There's no point having a 5-page document or a procedure and lose most of your readers before you get to the most important point. All of this is pretty common sense stuff, but I find that until you actually put it into a set of principles or a recipe, it's very easy to stray from them. So if you implement those, if you use those, they become very effective. They'll become your best friend when trying to manage your most important processes. Okie dokie. So, you like my animation? Thank you. See a smile. Good. Just to give you an idea of, I guess, how to determine which processes add value to your business. Cleaning of the coffee machine. So I've seen a lot of client organizations where they will document, they'll have a procedure that somebody approves on how to clean a coffee machine. Now, is that critical? I'd say if you're in the coffee business, it might be. Obviously, maintaining health standards is important, but an actual step-by-step process would probably not be of value to your average office. Oh yeah, okay. So that's probably the best, the first point. Second, and it actually, we could probably use that coffee cleaning process as an example here. So have information where and when it's needed. If someone can't find the information they need when they need it, they'll just do things their own way, or worse, they'll create a new procedure. So you have duplicates and potentially contradictory information. So with the coffee machine, you decide, yes, it's really important for our health and safety reasons. There's a set of instructions with a coffee machine, so we don't want to poison anyone. That's fine. Maybe have a few points taped to the side of the machine that highlights what needs to be done. You don't have to document it in your business management system. So let's go through an example of using information, or having information on your processes where and when it's needed. Let's take risk management. So there are organizations that will have up to around 6 separate documents. They'll have a risk management policy. They'll have a risk management procedure. And that risk management policy might be in a department in, assurance and risk, or audit and risk department. They'll have their risk management procedure there as well. The projects or operations department will have a risk register. They'll probably have a procedure or set of instructions on how to use the risk register. And then they'll have a risk matrix and potentially a risk appetite statement, so that they know what is acceptable risk, what's not. So you could have up to 6 documents that straight away need to be reviewed, maintained, updated, and cross-referenced to make sure that changes to one are made to the others. So if we take the principle of putting information where and when it's needed for the user, the result could look like something like this. You might have a risk management manual, which includes your policy, procedure, and an risk appetite statement. Then you have a risk register. In that risk register, you can have your risk matrix, a guidance page, or even guidance in line with the register, notes in line with the register providing guidance. So you're down to effectively 2 documents from 6, and they are sufficiently complementary, not overlapping, that it would be very difficult to update one and having negative consequence on the other. All right, now the next 3 principles I will demonstrate with an example. So let's have a look. Right. Oh yeah, so the 3 principles are: only document what's critical, be accurate, brief, and clear, and then start with a key takeaway. So let's have a look how we could potentially implement those principles. So let's start with a scenario dealing with an irate customer. Very common across any sector, any business. So we've put together a set of instructions when your front desk people come across an irate customer. These are the things that they should do. So I might actually, there we go. First, they need to stay calm and patient. The first step is to remain calm, regardless of the customer's demeanor. An irate customer can be more difficult to handle if you respond with similar emotions. Remaining calm helps in de-escalating the situation. Very detailed. It's great background. Is it critical? I'd say it's something that you probably put in a training manual as opposed to a reference process. Listen actively, and there's a whole blurb about how to listen actively, what sort of things you should say. Acknowledge the issue, and so on and so forth. Apologize sincerely, identify the root cause, offer solutions, follow up or take action, follow up, document the interactions for future reference and to improve the service quality, and then learn and improve, reflect on the interaction to understand what could have been done differently. And then important, the goal of this process is to de-escalate the situation and identify the best course of action to resolve the customer's issues. If you feel unsafe at any point, seek help from your manager, a colleague, or someone who can assist. Now, there's a lot of stuff that, a training module would be valuable to find a training module. In terms of a process, how do you step-by-step deal with an irate customer? There's a lot of information to digest. If I was in a tense situation, I'm not sure that I would be able to read through that whole thing and follow it word for word. So what we'll do, first thing we'll do is we will exclude what's not critical. Now, this is somewhat subjective, and it depends on your staff, your employees, the level of training, education, experience, etc. But for a hypothetical organization, I've gone through and I've identified what is not critical. In this instance, listen actively. That's fairly clear. I don't think it needs to be reinforced. Apologize sincerely. That's not really critical because it may not apply to every situation. It may not be appropriate. And learn and improve. Now, the reason why I've said this is not critical is because in the step above, we've documented the situation, and then that will be an output that is an input to a separate process of lessons learned. So it's not critical in this particular procedure. And the important thing stays because it's important. So now we've reduced from 10 to 7 items. What we're now going to do is be accurate, brief, and clear. So what we've done, particularly on the brief side, we've removed all the fluffy words, all the things that make it seem like an article or a novel, and made it very easy for the reader to comprehend. So stay calm, maintain composure to de-escalate situation, acknowledge the issue, empathetically recognize the customer's issues, identify cause, offer solutions, act quickly, follow up, document, record interaction details for future references. And then we've got those important items there. Now I've split them up into important. If you feel unsafe, seek managerial colleague support. And then you've got the objective of this procedure and of this interaction. So then we put it through the final principle, which is starting with the key takeaway. And the most important thing in this instance, when you're dealing with an irate customer, is safety. So we put that first. If you feel unsafe at any point, seek help. And the objective of dealing with this irate customer correctly, and therefore the purpose of the steps outlined in this process, are to de-escalate the situation and resolve the customer concern. And then we go through the 7 steps that we've distilled. So in order of importance, if you feel unsafe, seek help. Okay, you don't feel unsafe. Right. What do I need to do? De-escalate the situation. If that's all you get to as a person encountering an irate customer, it's probably the most valuable thing that you could take away from this entire process. If that's all the time you have. If you have the opportunity to read through more, it's right there for you. Now, what these principles have done is managed to take a process that is started like this, 1 and almost a half pages, then reduced it to this, half a page. That is the entire process and the magic behind avoiding the process jungle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you for that presentation. Spot on 20 minutes, by the way. Well done.
Oh, perfect. Do you want me to, hang on, where are we?
No, I don't want you to do any more and ruin the perfection. So I will move to my element now. Thanks, Rob. Okay, allow me to share my screen. I think you might have to unshare, Rob. Is that possible?
Unshare. Oh, I like the control, Dan. So
right. See where we get to. Okay, Natalie, have I got, is the screen up?
Yes.
Yes, you can see my screen.
Yeah, it's an infinite mirror.
Infinite mirror. There we go.
You can see all the people. That's better.
There we go. Thank you. Okay, so it shouldn't take me much longer than about 5 minutes to run through this demonstration of how we're going to apply some of those principles that Rob has mentioned into the end-to-end process and business framework that we're developing for the NZBCA. So I'm going to show you early sight of the upcoming membership site with the knowledge base that we're planning to deliver hopefully in April and the various components underneath it. So once released, you will be able to, you will all be given a login to this site. This will be your membership site. You'll be able to follow the structure, navigate around quite an extensive set of material that we're loading in, including guides, processes, artifacts, templates, checklists. So hopefully not too much that you are overwhelmed, but certainly a lot of information to give you choice in how you use it. So this is what you will see once you have a login. You'll see a membership site homepage. It's got 3 elements. There's a forum, which is currently out for testing with a subset of members. There will be a set of courses. There's only one in there at the moment, and that's the course that we run on leadership for consultancies, but we're likely to drop in 2 or 3 more over the next couple of months. And then finally, we come to the resources section, which is what I want to focus on and where our knowledge base is held. And we click on the resources. And primarily, yes, there are some latest downloads that you can immediately dive straight into, some of the more important material. But what I'm mostly interested in showing you is this end-to-end business process, which is interactive. And
Hey,
held
Dan.
on, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Is there a way that you can move that rectangle with all of us?
How do I get it? Yeah,
Put it onto us. Have you got a second screen?
I do not have a second screen, hence
Okay,
the problems.
never mind.
So is that a little better? I've pushed it out the screen.
Yeah.
Okay. So click on the interactive framework and you're taken to this interactive business framework, which shows all the functions that you would try to incorporate in running a consultancy. So lots of different ways we could have represent this. It's been represented as a flow, but it could be a framework, a set of pillars. So starting with strategy. Strategy allows you to put in the foundation, certainly for your operating model, which in turn helps you put your leadership and management structure in place. But strategy also kicks off key activities such as go-to-market planning, workforce planning, and talent planning as well. And behind that, you've got all these key functions that once you've done your plan that you need to implement: your client account management, your talent management. And of course, all of that leads into delivering a good solution to your client. This is your entry point to all the artifacts and the knowledge behind this. There's just one other view I'll slightly show you now, that there is actually a detailed end-to-end process. That's just another view. It's a bit more detailed as per the name. So if you remember where we had client acquisition, well, in fact, that's broken down into at least 6 elements: sub-functions: marketing, opportunity management, managing RFPs, writing contracts, lead generation, and so on. So it's just a different view for your information. So going back to that, I want to show you where the detailed information that supports all of these activities is. So I'm going to use strategy as an example, but the flow will be pretty similar for any of the boxes. So if I click on strategy, so the first thing it does is it takes us through to a high-level process. It's mostly informational. Eventually, every one of these boxes will have a click on, and we'll be able to click down into those as well. But At the moment, our route to the detailed information processes is through this button here. Okay, that brings us into the learning management system, where we are taken through to the organizational strategy homepage. There are about 17 or 18 home pages that cover some of those functions that we just saw, plus a few more detailed ones, broken down into 3 sections. Initially, we've got just a description of what the component is all about. I'll spend just a couple of minutes running through. What we have is a guide. So every one of those functions has a detailed guide. This is held in a database which gets updated with the latest information. So the latest information will always be in this guide. And we can just go through it, or we can download it. Within here, we have the detailed steps that we saw on the information page. So this document in particular, this was about 37 pages long. That's about average for what they are in terms of size. Some are a bit larger. Certainly the go-to-market is certainly, that's a large one. And I just want to show you at the end of each document, then you have a list of supporting documents which mean that all the information is kind of available in the same place. So where is that information? Where are the templates? Where are the supporting checklists, and so on? I will now minimize this window if I can. There we go. And quite simply, that supporting information is just below it. So it's very easy to find. So for example, if I were to click on to the organizational strategy template for a medium to large organization, that takes you through to Word in this particular case. And of course, you can download the file with the instructions in it. And if you want, there are some other ones. Here's a checklist, for example, that's PDF. So you can download the organizational strategy checklist to make sure that you are following all the steps. So that really is how we're going to help disperse and control the information. That was strategy, but we can navigate back to it. That would be the same for operating model. It's a bit of a strange view, this one, but and so on. So you'd be able to click on any one of these, find those detailed guides and those detailed checklists and artifacts that go behind it. So that strategy, it's the basic navigation for the whole knowledge base. Hoping to complete the knowledge upload by early April. Got about a dozen people with access already. They will be testing the material before we release it more widely. If you are interested in getting early sight of the material as it develops, just let me know. I will send you a login. I'm very happy to do that. And in fact, the more the merrier there. So yeah, that really is the demonstration. I'm hoping to try and embed as many principles as we can. Just a quick recap there. Member site from April includes the members forum and the courses and the knowledge base. And that is it also for the webinar presentations today. I'll open up for questions in about 30 seconds, but Rob, just to say thank you for your presentation today. Is there any key messages that you would like to leave us with?
No, keep it simple, as the saying goes. That's really, really key. And that's it.
That's it.
It's actually more difficult to do than it sounds to keep things simple. We all know that.
Yeah.
Does anyone have? Sorry, can I offer an opportunity for someone to ask questions about my presentation, Dan, or are you going to do that?
Absolutely. No, please. Any questions for Rob or for myself?
There'll be a test at the end, guys. So if there's any,
well, certainly I have attended now, I don't know, 20 webinars in the past 2 months, and I reckon there are 3 questions in the entirety of the webinar. I think that's the new style. So if you've got any questions afterwards, absolutely just come back to us with any information. Of course, we are recording it, and we'll make that available to everybody, usually in about 48 hours it takes us to process everything. Oh, we've got a hand up. Is that right, Daniel?
G'day.
Hello.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks, Dan. Very much appreciated. Question for Rob. I kind of felt as you were running through the presentation now, I had a real question in my mind, just around where you draw the boundary between a process and a procedure, and where, frankly, just a checklist would do. I was thinking in my head, for example, cleaning the coffee machine.
Yeah.
First assumption, you know how to clean stuff. If you do, make sure you clean this, make sure you clean that. Checklist would
Exactly
do.
right.
But yeah, kind of interesting how you help your clients kind of guide them through when do they really need to go into a detailed procedure and where a high level process is
perfect. Okay, so let's start with your first question. What's the difference between a process and a procedure? Well, it might pay to define a process. A process is a set of activities or tasks or steps to turn an input into an output, right? Procedure is just one way of documenting it. Another way of documenting it is a process flow diagram, a checklist that states requirements and the order of checks to be or activities to be undertaken. So a process can be documented in any number of ways. The video instructions. What quite often happens is people refer to think of processes as the diagram, the flow chart as a process. That's not really correct. It's a representation of a process, but so is a procedure. The other part of your question, Daniel, correct me if I've got it wrong, is when do you determine which method to use, correct?
Yeah, or your recommendations on do that.
Well, so as much as possible, I like to have the information, the instructions, exactly where they'll be used. So if you do have a checklist that somebody needs to do, say someone's maintaining a piece of machinery, and if you can incorporate instructions into that checklist, either at the front or even better, at each of the sections or lines, it means that they really literally do have the information where and when they need it. Sometimes that's not really possible, obviously. If your procedure is, I don't know, something more level, something higher level, how to manage risks. You won't necessarily have that attached to a form and for it to cover your entire risk management framework. But elements of risk management could be put into a form. For instance, we see this in JSCAs. Whereas everyone know what JSCA is? It's the job safety or hazard evaluation assessment, something like that. So you do that before you start a high-risk job. But in terms of managing risks and the risk framework, that would be something that you'd need to have documented thoroughly, with key risks identified, responsibilities identified. So there's no, I guess, hard and fast rule. However, I always start with the first thing I think is, where will this be used?
Yeah.
If it's going to be used in a boardroom, or maybe it needs to be part of their suite of documents. If it's going to be used in the field, can we attach it to a form?
Oh, that's cool. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for your question. I appreciate it.
Any other questions? Time for one more. No? Well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending. These webinars are getting a little smoother, which is good. And you're welcome, Caroline. And so in a couple of weeks' time, we have Tanya Vincent presenting. So I hope we have as many attendees for that one. But I would like to say thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We'll make the recording available as soon as we can in about 48 hours, and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks, everyone.